In the second section of Music Theory for the Country Guitarist Part 2, we're going to be taking a look at some of the signature sounds that constitute the Bakersfield sound. In the first part, we're going to take a look at some major pentatonic ideas and how we can expand those. We'll be working in the key of D for this section. We'll be taking a look at our D chord and the C chord shape here between the second and fifth frets. So to pick up our pentatonics from the last section, we see how we start our first note here, the D, we have the E, the F sharp, the A, the B, and then we're going to add in the flatted seventh for our C. So all together we have this 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. That seventh is going to be a very important note that we'll return to later. From there, we want to take a look at how we can bend into some of these notes that Roy Nichols and James Burton use quite often. So what we have here is the D. This is going to be the bending the second to the third. And we're going to take our E and bend it up a whole step. The F sharp. And then just bring it back down. E, D. So we have this. That's a very common bend we want to get under our fingers. The common lick that often is paired with that is by playing the D, and then we're going to bend up the E to the F sharp, and then we're going to reach with our pinky behind and grab the A note, and then we're going to bend up the E again, and then release, E, D. So that's kind of tough getting our pinky behind there, but that's a good thing to work on to strengthen our fingers. So all together, that's going to sound like a very common lick, often an ending lick for intros that you'll hear in those Bakersfield records. The next thing we can do is kind of riff off that and take the E and rather bend it from the F to the F sharp, we're going to bend it to an F. So it's going to be a flattened bend. So we'll do that E and then bend it up to our F. So we'll go D, E, F, E, D. So it's that flattened third bend. Okay? And then the same kind of lick applies. We'll go D, bend up to the F, E, D, then grab the low pentatonic, the sixth, the B, back to D. So we have more of a minor sound or bluesy sound. So we have this major bending up to the F sharp and this kind of more minor bending to the F. Major third, minor third. So again, we have and same thing. We could add it or we could do it the other way. You'll hear it both. So major third, flatted third. So we're going to apply these two ideas to a common Merle Haggard intro. This will be at 15-11 in the key of D. That will be a bar of D, a bar of A, 2 bars of D. It's going to sound like this. All right, so to break down this lick, we're starting with the major approach first over the D chord. So we have pickups on D and E, and then we're going to bend straight up to our F sharp. So it's a quick, and we want to make that nice and staccato. We could even play further back if we wanted to get more of a chicken pickany sound. And then we're going to just bend the E up to an F sharp, and then play a quick staccato note on the A, and then we're going to bend this up again, and come down to our B. So we have this. That's going to be our first part over the D chord. Now over the A, we're going to switch to the minor sound by playing the E and bending it to an F rather than an F sharp. So we'll go up to the F and then back down the same way. It's a common move. Resolve on D. So we have contrasting major and minor. So 1, 2. And then we're going to play A with our pinky and then do a pre-bend of E up to F sharp and release it downwards. Okay, so that's a common move of playing the high fifth, bend that third, and release it down to the one. Okay, so we bend up to the third, release to the two, down to the one. And then often you'll hear sometimes like a repeat of that where maybe they'll play like, we're just playing that an octave lower. So A, F, D, or sometimes you'll just hear D, F, D, just to kind of accentuate that a little more. So all together, the example one Merle Haggard intro we have. All right, let's take a look at some more pentatonics, but this time looking at our minor pentatonics out of our A chord shape. So we have our D chord, A chord shape between the 5th and 7th frets. We're going to start on the 3rd string. We have D, and then we come up to our F, and we'll come up to our G, our A, our C, and our D. So that's the 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. Right? 7th fret, 6th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret. That's going to be our minor pentatonics built out of this shape and extending into our D chord G shape. So when we put that into kind of more of the vocabulary, we're going to be focusing on bending our G, the 4th of D, up to A. So we're going to approach it by going F, G, and then bend the G up to an A, bring it down to G again, F. That's the bending the 4th to the 5th. So we have, and often you'll hear that 3rd, the F, just kind of nudged up just a little bit. It's kind of a blues idea. So we'll go. And then the common lick is going to be quite similar to the major that we talked about in the previous example. We're just going to be playing the F, the G, and then we're going to bend that G up and then grab the flat 7 with our pinky. So we'll go. So again, that's F, bend, then grab the C with your pinky, bend it back up, release it, bend that F up, and just nudge it. Okay? So that's the common lick there. And then bending the 4th to the flat 5th. So instead of doing a whole step bend, just do a half step bend, get that flatted sound. So we'll have to highlight the A flat or G sharp, however you want to see it. And again, we can play kind of a common lick that's going to sound. So that's just going F, G, bend, release, do that nudge, resolve, nudge again. So we're going to apply both of these ideas that are very similar to the major pentatonics that we just looked at into another example, example 2, the Bakersfield turnaround. So it's going to sound like this. All right, so we're starting off with doing some dead picks. So just a triplet on our 2nd string to get that chicken picking sound. And then we're going to repeatedly bend G to A and then grab our C on our 1st string. So we'll go. And as we get to the A chord, we're going to play the G up to an A again, then release it down to the F and down to the D. And that's going to be what resolves it. So we have this 1, 2, 3 triplet. And then we're going to add this triplet rhythm figure that you hear Roy Nichols do quite a bit, where we're going to just work up kind of the scale. We'll play triplet. So just D, F, G, and then we're going to bend the G up to the A flat, down to the G again, down to the F, and resolve. triplet, triplet, resolve. To end it there. So we have this 1, 2, 3 of the D chord, A chord, resolve to the D chord. All right, so in context one more time. All right, now we're going to move on and take a look at our major pedal steel bends. So we're going to be moving up to the G chord shape. These are bends that you hear Ralph Mooney and Norm Hamlet do all over these great Bakersfield records. So we can emulate it on the guitar by coming up to this G chord shape. And we're going to be specifically focusing on the top part, the top 3 strings. So we have D, F sharp, and D, the 1, 3, and 1. But what I want to do here is we're going to add in the E. So that's going to be the 2nd of D. And we're going to play the A, that's the 5th of D. And then we have the D. So we have now 9, 10, 10. We're going to bend the E up a whole step. And we have that kind of stereotypical major pedal steel style bend. But that's what's happening there. We're just bending this up to this next triad like we covered in the Nashville Sound section. But we're just doing it with the bend. So we have the major, and then release to the chord at the end itself. So that's going to be kind of the more major sound. The more minor or bluesy sound is we're going to come up to the D chord E shape here. Like a D7. We're going to take a look at the triad here, F sharp, A, and D. And what I want us to do is we're going to put our pinky down on the C note. This is the 13th fret of the 2nd string. And then we're going to put our 3rd finger, our ring finger, down on the G note of the 3rd string, 12th fret. So we have 12, 13, 10. And we're going to bend this up a whole step. And now we get A, C, and D. That's just a D7 chord. So we're moving this up. Okay, and then we're just releasing down to the D7 chord, like so with the F sharp, C, and D. So we have, for this kind of bluesier sound, and then for the more major sound. So we're going to apply that to a Bakersfield steel style intro for our example 3. It's going to sound like this. All right, let's break this down. So we're doing kind of the classic pickups on the and of 2. So we're going to go 1, 2, and we're just playing A to D, E, and this is just setting us up into this chord shape we need to bend up into our D major chord. So we have this bend here. And what I did was specifically a rake backwards from my 1st string to my 3rd string. That's something you hear Norm Hamlet do quite a bit, but you could also just grab it with the pick and fingers as well. So we have this bend, and then we're going to move up to the next D bend here, that flat 7th sound or blues sound. That's going to move us now into the A chord here. So I'm going to do that same sound, but I'm going to do a pre-bend. So I'm going to bend this up, and I'm going to release it. And then I'm going to play my double stop of C and A here and hammer onto the C sharp to make it an A chord and then resolve on my A. So slowly I have 1, 2. And then I'm going to resolve back into my D chord here, the G chord shape, and it's going to go. So I'm just visualizing my D triad here, and I'm going to hammer on E and G. It's kind of like a suspended sound, right? You could also hammer on to the G triad there and make it a G chord. I think that sounds a little more obvious. I like the subtle sound. I'm just using my ring and my middle to grab those, and then I'm going to come right back up with my major bends. And I could, again, rake them, or I could use my pick and my fingers. So slowly, all together, we'd have 1, 2. In context with the rhythm. So we can see with the Bakersfield sound, it's taking some of the ideas, like the pentatonics and filling out the sound there, and the double stops and adding the bends into them, and bringing the Nashville sound into its own for the Bakersfield. So do the same thing. See if you can find the similarities between the styles, and if there's any unexplored territory of bringing them together and expanding each one. We'll take a look at truck driving guitar in the next section.